to YouTube? It's your girl AK, and we are back with a market analysis video. This is gonna be very raw and uncut, no editors here. I'm just gonna jump straight into the markets. I'm trying to get this out before 12, which is 3 hours from now. So let's just get into it. Boom. We are looking at the SPX500 this week, right? I see that SPX500, as you can tell, it's usually a very bullish instrument, as you can see, right? Right now, I see that, we had a big pump up a few weeks ago. So this is currently the weekly time frame. So this is the weekly time frame, as you can see, right? We had this big pump up to the upside, right? So we have this break of structure on the weekly time frame, and price is looking to potentially come back into this area basically, and make a new higher high, right? So as far as retracement levels, we do see that we are approaching this 38%, right? We have our weekly area interest sitting in between, because this is the last structure that was broken. Really, this whole area, if I really mark it out, if you want like a bigger zone, really this whole area up here is kind of like a weekly area interest, right? And then we have the 50 and then the 61. So I'm looking to see price basically come down and reject these levels. As a position trader, like for a position trade, currently I am already placing pending orders for my position orders. So if you look right here, I basically, for a position trade, I would have a limit order on the 38, which I currently do right now, right? So I have a limit order on the 38 as well as the 50%, and then I have a limit order on the 61. As far as my stop loss is very conservative. It's sitting between the 78 and the 1 level, right? And as far as targets, we all know that liquidity, right? The 0 level is my first target. The 27 is my second target. We do have the psychological level, 8,000, where you can also potentially take profit from, right? If price is very strong, price could even get to the 61. So this is what I'm looking at for a position trade, right? The orders are already set. I feel very confident holding runners, because as you can see, like, again, SPX is just a very bullish, very bullish instrument. So this is something I'm looking to hold runners on for the long term, right? Position trading to me is going to be passive income in the background, right? So just keeping that in mind. Now, as far as my swing trade idea, I'm a little bit more technical. Let's talk about the swing trade. So swing trading, we're actually going to jump a little lower from the weekly, right? And I just kind of want to show y'all where price is currently heading. So I'm just going to grab my chart real quick just to kind of mark out where we are currently at. Higher time frame confirmations. Boom. Okay, so our weekly time frame is currently bullish, right? So we can leave that like that. Let's jump down to the daily time frame, right? Daily time frame. I'm going to hide this Fibonacci just for a second, just so we can really look at structure, right? So daily time frame, as you can see, we are currently bearish. Why? At one point we were bullish. We had a big pump up, right? But then we started making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, right? And then price ended up what? We broke structure. We retested this broken structure, and we're selling to the downside. Now, I do think that, because the weekly is bullish, the selling pressure is going to be temporary. In fact, once price gets closer to this weekly area of interest, this is where I feel like buyers are going to start kicking in once we start hitting these levels. In fact, if I was to turn my fib back on, right, if I was to jump back to my objects and turn on my Fibonacci, boom, we do see that we are approaching the 38, right, in the 50. So these are some retracement levels like buyers tend to sit at, right? We tend to get reactions from these levels. So I'm a little hesitant on selling right now, right? Even though my daily is bearish. So I'm gonna put this out right here. Daily is bearish, right? If you jump to a 4 hour, the 4 hour is also extremely bearish, as you can see, right? So 4 hour, I'm gonna show y'all, we are also making lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, right? So we are bearish on the 4 hour as well. So I can say that the 4 hour is bearish. So while my consensus is to sell right now as a swing trader, because we do have 2 consecutive time frames going in the same direction, right? If I was to circle this, you can see that the daily and the 4 hour are 2 consecutive time frames saying bearish, which means I should sell. However, in this situation, I'm trying to be more mindful of where I am in the range. And remember, I just said that we are getting pretty close to approaching these retracement levels down here. So again, once price reaches these levels, I'm not really interested into selling. I want to sell in the premium. So I talked about this before in a previous video, right? I'll talk about it again, right? When you look at Fibonacci, you do see that we have our levels, right? We have the levels above the 50%, and then we have levels below the 50%. Anything above the 50% level, right? This line is premium. You want to sell in the premium zone. Anything below this level is discount. You want to buy in discount, right? So technically we are still in premium, so it's still okay to sell. But just from my prior experience with trading SPX500, I've seen in the past, this is from prior experience, right? Just my experience from trading SPX500 on the higher time frames. A lot of times when I am trading Fibonacci with SPX on a high time frame, usually the lowest it will get to is like the 38, and then it will shoot up, right? It's very rare that I see price get to the 50 and 61 on the high time frame on SPX, and that's just from my prior experience. So in a normal situation, yes, this would be a valid sell trade because we are in premium, right? We are above this level. We are above the 50%, right? I'll even draw it out for you so you can really see it, right? So we are above, let's draw it out. We are above this 50% level. We are in premium. This is good for sales. However, just from, again, my experience with SPX, I've seen it shoot up right before the 38. So I don't feel comfortable getting into sales just from knowing the pair and trading it myself. I'd rather wait for price to get to these levels, right? So I want to see price eventually come down into these levels, right? So again, right now we're making lower lows, lower highs on the daily. So lower low, lower high. I want to wait for price to eventually give me that shift of structure on the daily time frame, right? And once I get that shift of structure on the daily time frame, then I can scale in onto a 4-hour time frame, right? And find my entry. And there I will look to target these highs. So we have all-time highs right here, right? Which is cool on the 4-hour. And then we also have our 27 extension, right? Which is way up here. And it lines up pretty nicely with this psychological level 8,000. So that's kind of looking at for a long-term trend. So while my bias is valid for sales, just from my prior experience, I know, hey, you know, SPX doesn't tend to retrace that deep just from experience. So I'm waiting for that shift of structure on the lower time frame on that 4-hour, right? And then I'll look to get my entry like around the 4-hour, 1 hour, and look to target these highs up here. So that is my long-term look on SPX. Pretty simple. I'm not going to go too deep and say anything else. I just kind of want to follow this. Again, I am already placing my orders for the position trades. I'll let y'all know how that goes for that. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and mark it here. Very raw, very uncut. Because I'm just trying to get it out before 12 today, right? If you want to keep up with the trade ideas, go ahead and follow my Telegram. I'm going to post this on my Telegram right after this. And I'm also going to be, you know, if y'all want to ask me questions, y'all can join the Discord and then talk to me or the group directly in the Discord. So yeah, just let me know how y'all feel. What are y'all looking at for the week? I'm very curious. Hope y'all have a great and amazing trading week. Until next time, y'all. Bye.